All right, so now that we have our synths down, the next thing we're going to get into is the drums. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make a new MIDI track, and I'm going to rename this kick. I'm going to make another MIDI track. We're going to call this snare. And let's go ahead and group these together. We'll call this drums. Let's go ahead and we'll recolor this to orange. And basically my drums are going to come in right here. So I'm going to call this verse 1.1. And we're going to start by laying out the snare pattern. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to just go on the 0.3 of every bar. And I'm going to duplicate this across because that's where the snare hits every time, at least to start. So for this, I'm actually going to look for a clap. And I have this one clap that I really like in the Terror drums. Clap 1. Also, we're going to bring this group down -10, just like the rest of them. This will come in handy for mixing. All right, so what I like to do even before the kick is I like to lay the hi-hats down. I feel like the kick pattern has to have all the groove, and so sometimes I like to get the less important instruments out of the way first so I don't overdo it with the kick drum. And a lot of times whenever I add things, I need to change the kick drum pattern around. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to find a good hi-hat sample. Probably from Savage. Cymbals, hi-hats. This one will work. And there's really no science when it comes to picking samples. Just make sure they're high quality and they sound good. I've actually been using sort of the same samples for a really long time just because my mix downs have sort of relied on the samples that I use, and that's usually the case. Is the most important part about mix downs are the sounds that you use. So nah, just want the single clap. Okay, so that is it for the hi-hats. Maybe we'll do some offbeat percussion. So we'll call this like off snare. And let's just find like a weird sort of all right, we're gonna have to EQ that. find a different snare. All right, now I want a I'm gonna make this all right, that sounds good. I'm gonna actually duplicate this. We're gonna call this punch snare. And I'm gonna take this sample that we just used here, and I'm gonna put it in here, and this is just gonna be used as a transient. All right, so now I have everything I want. Now I'm gonna add the kick in. So let's go ahead and we'll find a good kick. I actually have one in mind that I like. It's in Titan pack and it's all the way down at the bottom. This one, 89. All right. Nope, don't want that. And that's why we put all the percussion first, because I want to see where these kicks fit in. All right, so that might be the pattern that we want. So I'm going to duplicate that across, and I'm actually going to speed this up a little bit. It's way too complicated. No, this is all just too complicated. So I'm going to get rid of that kick pattern, and I'm just going to duplicate this over. Because this is supposed to be for the vocalist to like rap on. You don't want this to be like ridiculously complicated. So maybe I'll add a little bit of variation to it, but I don't want to overcomplicate it right off the bat. Okay. So there is our drum pattern. All right. So I want like a little ride cymbal that's going to go every half note. There we go. That's the one. So I'm just going to put this every half note. All right, so we got our drums. All right, and that's pretty much all you want. A lot of it comes down to arrangement, but you need those drum patterns to start with. So now the next thing we're going to get into is the 808.